And so we have the narrator, the persona of the poem, in this situation where he understands that this woman whom he wants deeply is in love with him, but how long is it going to last? And so he considers what to do based on the fact that he finally understands that Porphyria worships him. And so he decides to kill her. And he kills her because now she's not going to change her mind. She is his forever. It is a moment frozen in time, in a sense, of course, because time, we go by linear time. But he kills her in order to prevent her. And then he rationalizes this by saying, down on about line 50, 54, 55, let's start about 53. Her smiling rosy little head, so glad it had its utmost will, that all it scorned, the other life that she was going out, is fled, and I am love, its love am gained instead. Porphyria's love, she guessed not how got to turn the page, her darling one wish would be heard. So he rationalizes this by saying, well, that's what she wanted. She said she loved me and that she wanted to be with me, but she, wished that she could dissever the vainer ties. I did it for her. I granted her desire. I gave her her wish. Now, of course, this raises all sorts of ethical problems within, his interpretation of that. Did she really want to die? Well, of course not. So he is taking upon himself something that is beyond his right. And from evidence in the poem, he then has a God complex. He is putting himself in the place of a deity. And I support this by evidence in the poem. For one thing, he says, Porphyria worshipped me. What is it or who is it that you worship? You worship a god, a deity. You don't worship other people, or you shouldn't worship other people. And so this elevates a false sense of self-esteem in him, that she worships him. And so it makes him feel godly. And what does a god do? A god has the right to decide who lives and who dies. And he takes that right then upon himself. I also think that this has a big statement about the persona, the narrator's idea about God from the last lines. And all night long we have not stirred, and yet God has not said a word. From this I infer that he expected either God to strike him with a lightning bolt, or at least, shouldn't he feel guilty about this? But he doesn't. He feels no guilt about this whatsoever. God has not spoken to him, has either not hit him with a lightning bolt, or has not said, what have you done? And this elevates his sense of godliness. So this is a poem about an obsessive love, a love that will go to any lengths. And I'm not going to say that it is not a love, because we talk about love as being pure and kind and wanting what it is, is best for the other person, but there is that obsessive love. This guy is really rather maybe a psychopath, not a serial killer, but he is definitely insanely crazy, or insanely crazy. He's that's redundant. He is criminally insane. There's a difference between being crazy like me and being criminally insane, which I'm not. And so maybe that is the reason why he is not widely liked in her circle of other friends. But at any rate, this poem is about an obsessive love and somebody who will go to great lengths, and then also that godly complex that the narrator does assume. You have to read and interpret the lines of the poem to come to this. And we also have to be very careful about not assuming this is what Robert Browning thinks a man should do. Browning is not saying, hey, you got a girlfriend, she's playing around on you? Yeah, strangle her. That's not what Browning is saying, even though I think many people, or some people, read this poem and they think that that is what Browning is advocating. Instead, what Browning is really advocating is that look what obsessive love can do. Look what unhealthy love can do. And so be careful in separating what is said in a poem by the narrator and what the poet is really trying to show in that. Now, I also had you read another poem by Browning called My Last Duchess. And that's very difficult to understand for many people as well. But it's about the same thing. In that poem, the Duke has his wife killed because she spreads her smiles. She smiles at everybody. And so he gives her this ancient name, but yet the guy who brings her in peaches from the orchard gets just as much attention as smiling. So he had her killed. So, you probably, some people, my students have said, well, he wrote 2 poems about killing his wife or his girlfriend. So, maybe you're reading that wrong there, Ms. Gwynn. I don't think so. I think that Browning is talking about in both of those poems the dangers of being, so possessive and impulsive and compulsive that you would cause harm to another person. Also remember, Browning's wife was Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who wrote the poem, How Do I Love Thee? Let Me Count the Ways. Obviously, Elizabeth didn't feel, threatened by her husband. Historical context, it was written during the Victorian era. So that is something to consider on how, the bearing on the poem. Does it have any bearing on the poem? I think it does, because in the Victorian era, Porphyria has to be pretty brave to go to the house of a man whom she doesn't love, or to whom she's not married without a chaperone, because you didn't do that in the Victorian era. So there's some undertones going on there as well. So that's what I think this poem about. I think it is about compulsive, obsessive, dangerous love that elevates into a God complex that allows this man to allow himself to kill a woman and think that he is done. Now, we would ask, what comes next? He sits with her all night long, this dead woman in his lap. Day's going to come. People are going to miss her. What is he going to do then? We don't know. That would be something that we would have to only speculate about. I like this poem. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, there are happy poems out there, and you can investigate them on your own time.